evening, ladies and gentlemen. Benvenuti a tutti. I'm Ron Seggi from The Ron Seggi Show, produced and broadcast from America, and a proud sponsor of the Co-Azit Italian Family History Group. Welcome to the Palace Cinemas for our May event, featuring our special guest, Paul Signorelli. Please take your seats, and please take a moment to turn off your phones. We hope you enjoy the evening.
Okay, buonasera, signore e signori. Benvenuti a tutti. In Italiano, that's all I can say. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. My name is Art Phillips. I'm the chairman of the Italian Family History Group for Co-Azit. And my real name is actually Arturo Di Filippo. Unfortunately, my grandpa arrived in New York at 7 years old, and immigration changed his name to Phillips. So I'm stuck with an English-American name. So I do apologize for that, but you can think of me as Arturo Di Filippo. I'm happier that way. The film that we're reviewing as you arrived in is a beautiful film that was produced by one of our committee members and a very good friend of mine, Antonio Luciano. His cousin is Lucky Luciano. So it's a very, very special night for the Italian Family History Group, and we present Paul Signorelli, and the topic will be Life from a Suitcase, the story of his father, Biaggio Signorelli, who first set his suitcase down in Sydney in 1954 as a 19-year-old from, I'm not going to pronounce this right, Paggiorelli, Sicilia. Close? Excuse me. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Paul Signorelli to the stage. Welcome, Paul. Thank you very much for being here. Please have a seat and relax. We should have had a vino or popcorn. We didn't think about this. Most people here actually are familiar with the real estate that the family is involved with, the event venues, and of course, the restaurant and a lot of other things. But I thought a really, really great way for us to start is basically from the beginning, from the history of when your dad first came here. Well, first of all, he was born in what?
He was born in Poggiorelli in Sicily.
Yeah.
It was about 60 k's from Palermo. So he's one of 5 boys. There was the oldest son, Salvatore, Peter, or Pietro, Vince, Giuseppe, and then my dad, Biaggio. So one of 5, my grandfather, Paolo. We're all named after my grandfather. So it's an Italian tradition that we actually name our first sons after our grandparents. So I did the same. My son's called Biaggio, who couldn't be here tonight. He's actually at camp. So, hi Biaggio in the video. So, yeah, so he came to, each brother migrated in different years. So the first to arrive here was Michael Vince, who he came in probably about 1950, and then followed through with my father in 1954. What's symbolic about that is where he landed is where we actually have Doltone House today. So
that's really, really an amazing story. Yeah. So first thing, so your dad was born in Sicilia in the 30s, yeah?
And he was born in 1937, and little village called Poggiorelli, which is actually was destroyed in the earthquake in 1968. So there's a slight picture there that shows the current remains of the city, which was destroyed in 1968. So yeah, little town. It's about 60 kilometres from Palermo, so it's in the region of Trapani, so basically it's a province, but the capital city is Palermo.
Okay, yeah. So, moved here at age?
19, he was 19 when he arrived. He was called here by his brother, so in those days, a bit like today, a bit like the 457 visa, where actually you get invited to get a sponsorship, but in those days, Australia was open, the borders were open to a lot of migrants, and those migrants rolled their sleeves up and worked very hard, and there was no Medicare or any employment benefits. So in those days, you worked and you survived.
Yeah, absolutely. So 54, he arrives.
Yeah, there's a few pictures there of my father Biaggio. So in the fruit shop, actually his first job was in a fruit market. So all his brothers were in the fruit game. So
which was in Willoughby, yeah.
Willoughby, yeah. So a lot of Italian migrants, and I think Co-Azit did a good Italian fruit shop heritage program about 4 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
which is it? Can anyone hear me out there? I might just hold this because I hate just.
Yeah, sure. If you just pull it out, yeah. And
I hate just turning it. Yes, thank you.
those pics of what Paul's referring to is actually on our website. We have a
That's
whole
right.
section.
Yeah, about 4 years ago, Coazit were running the Italian fruit shop program, and that was successful because a lot of Italian migrants that had fruit shops all submitted their photos and told their stories and how they lived in the fruit shops. We were the same. Our family, we lived on top of the fruit shop in Lakemba, and I was born there. So my two sisters as well. But so Biaggio's first job was in Willoughby. And he had two jobs. He was working for making transformers for colour TVs. So that was back in Artarmon.
So he went into business with his brothers.
Yeah, well, basically, Willoughby was owned by his two brothers, and in those days, it was very manual labour. There was no technology of forklifts, or every project was hand-loaded by hand and unloaded. But he then branched out for himself in Lakemba with his other two brothers. They sold that shop. In Lakemba, they opened up a fruit shop, which they called Antonella Fruit Shop, named after their mother.
Okay.
Antonella, my grandmother. And that went on to be very successful as well.
A sort of 74 that your dad actually found some extra funds and he invested in a function centre, is that?
Yeah, my dad got married to my mother, Fina, who's in the crowd tonight. And my uncle and my father worked at the fruit shop, and my uncle and my father had this vision to invest in a function centre, which they did in 1973. So it was a very successful business.
So that was the beginning of the whole entrepreneurial concept.
Hospitality, yeah. Well, basically, in those days, it was very limited Italian wedding reception centres. So they found a market, and they both rolled their sleeves up, and my dad worked weekends and weekdays. Well, they both did. So, which is very symbolic to all the Italians here tonight. That you work hard and families get together. I mean, the biggest strength is also about everyone putting their weight through, and there was everyone just worked hard, as we do today. But I think the values that we all grew up with our parents is that there was never any. I think the values of hard work. I think education was very limited, and I think they knew about hard work, and there was no such thing as holidays and sporting camps like we did today. It was all about and we saw our parents struggle. We saw our parents just basically try to make their life better in Australia, and us as second generations. We saw that. We saw the pain, we saw the suffering, we saw the success.
But it is all about all that passion and all those struggles that the early sort of immigrants actually went through here and also in America. I know that, and it's an important sort of aspect because it actually creates a long-lasting sort of journey and legacy as your
in that photo, you can see my Uncle Peter. It's on the right-hand side, the black and white photo. And that's my Uncle Peter and Vince, and my dad's in the middle.
Up here, right, that's your dad, yeah? That's Biaggio, and those are your uncles?
Peter and Vince, yeah. And just below that is my father. And then top left is myself and my two sisters. That's my dad in his now trendy blue suit. And
right, okay. Oh, gorgeous, fantastic. So now, what fruit shop was this? This is the fruit shop in...
The fruit shop was in Lakemba.
Right, that's Lakemba.
That photo there is from Willoughby, so...
Okay, right. So this is the
first in those days, there wasn't many photos as there are today. So all those photos were taken to send back to their mother in Sicily.
Yeah.
And because I asked my father once, I said, Dad, there's a lot of photos. There's no photo of us when we were kids. He's all too busy. But he goes, we took photos because my mother was waiting for photos back in Sicily. So there's no photos of myself or my sisters in a fruit shop because there was no time to take photos.
No, but look, there's something about the quality, isn't it, of the like of the sepia and the black and white photos. I mean, it's just incredible. It shows character. It still does.
It definitely does. Yeah.
So this is obviously the first function.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that was in Riverwood, and
Riverwood.
My uncle Philip and my father invested back in those days a lot of money to open up a venue. But the lucky thing was that they had the business of the fruit shop that was more or less carrying the debt and the cash flow.
Yeah.
But that became a very successful partnership, and like everything, as families grow, we grow to. So about 21 years ago, we had our separate ways, and we all went to our... And that's when Doltone House was established,
Yes,
in 95, yeah.
So, interesting transition for your dad and his brothers, right, to actually move from a fruit shop to a sort of hospitality event center.
Yeah, his brothers didn't get involved in the function centre, it was more his brother-in-law.
Okay.
And it being that... my father could see back in those days, in the 70s, that... and he will say it, he goes, one day the supermarkets will take over this industry. And he was right. I mean, so a lot of Italians that had invested in a lot of fruit shops, especially in suburban, as soon as the big chains, shopping centres, I mean, you talk about, Westfield type shopping centres, more regional growth, so bigger supermarkets got a bigger slice of the industry, so the Italian fruit shop declined. People will go more for convenience rather than for quality. So, but my father's... My uncle Philip was eager to go into business of the fruit shop. My dad said, look, I think we better go into a function venue because that's probably the growth.
It's the future.
Yeah, and there wasn't much in those days, the foresight. So, but like everything, money was tight and had to gather, sell houses and borrow. So, but my dad was lucky because he had a very good support from the markets, and a lot of the ethnic groups in the markets were his customers. So he'll be the business development manager by sending over the big Italian families with, a lot of daughters get married. So they actually trusted my father and my uncle, so both of them worked together. So.
Okay, and also because of the experience that he had with the purchasing of fruit from farmers and all that.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. But I think the business acumen was there. He knew how to buy and sell, especially a product that was very perishable, like fruit and vegetables. You know what to buy, what season to buy. Your customer, your consumers had different needs. So he was in wholesaling as well. So he was quite ambitious young man. Look at today. I mean, the supermarkets control that pie. I mean, the small greengrocer is almost obsolete. I mean, unless you've got groceries and a bit like a Harris Farm, which is more like a mini supermarket, but they have a big market share.
From here, between 1973 until the advent of the property of Doltone House.
Yeah, in 95, my father and I purchased the Doltone House, which is a very, from another family, actually.
Sylvania Waters.
Sylvania Waters, yeah.
Which is where I lived there. But
did you? Good, yeah, it's a nice area.
Well, okay.
So we found Doltone House. It wasn't run down, it's been there since 1965. Or 66, but it was a very established business, and the owners had retired, and we bought the freehold in 95, and I didn't really think it would be as big as what it is today, but back then my benchmark was if I can do one wedding on a Saturday and one wedding on a Sunday, we'll be right. So, and that was our business plan, the gut feeling. There was no advisors or economists. Was basically, we went there, we felt it, we touched it, we said this can work. So a lot of hard work, a lot of sleepless nights, and I was working. I still do work 7 days, but back then I was very hands-on.
That's absolutely important. So because I'm not from here and I only moved here in '88, explain to me, was this always called Doltone House, or was it a different name?
Doltone House was the name it was already there since 1966.
It was, right.
It's actually the first two names of the first two owners, so Dolly and Tony Stubbs.
Okay.
A very lovely Australian family.
Right.
Dolly's still alive today. She's about 85. So when we bought the business, I wanted to change the name. I said, "Oh, Dad, we can't keep this Doltone House. It's too Australianised. It just looks." And he said to me, "No," he goes, "it's there, and if you change the name, they'll always refer it as the old Doltone House." So it had a good name in that market, so he convinced me to keep it. He goes, "Well, keep the name, you rebrand it, and you all that history, you got all that, 25 years of goodwill there." So now we can honestly say that Doltone House has hosted weddings since 1966. So.
Well, that's fantastic. I always thought it was
almost 50 years.
I always thought it was an Italian name, La Casa di Doltone.
Yeah, it's right. Doltone, yeah, Dalton, yeah, Royal Dalton. A lot of people ring us in the old days. Used to ring us and say, "Oh, I've got a coffee cup that's chipped. How do we get it fixed?" I said, "No, you're referring to Royal Dalton." So that was the. But I'm glad, looking back now, I think it's a good choice that we kept the name because of that history. We've got clients today saying, my grandmother got married at Doltone House. My mum got married at Doltone House. So now we've got the third generation, and we've got that whole wheel of return business, which is great.
So
It ran very, very, very well. Food was our probably our most, and still is today, paramount. We brought on a chef that was very innovative. So the risk for us was it was a bit far out to bring all the Italian and ethnic groups to Sylvania.
To Sylvania,
Yeah. But we did it. We did it.
It worked.
Yeah, it worked. They couldn't find it, and we always said good things are hard to find. Yeah, so.
No. So when you purchased it in '95, you did some remodeling of the
We
actual building.
did major renovations. Our first thing was to obviously honour the weddings that we already had already been placed.
Right.
Because there was bookings there. There was probably about 100 weddings booked in already in that year. Yeah, a lot smaller weddings, but they weren't as big as they are today.
Right.
So we honoured those weddings, and we started a program of renovation. And so we'll close on Sunday night after a wedding, and then bills will come in at 1 a.m. and work right through till Friday, and then we hand over back on Saturday morning. So it was very testing time for us. Most suburban venues are like that. They're either focused on a wedding market, but yeah, today it works 7 days a week, every single day.
Because of functions and various...
Yeah, in our locations, especially in our current locations where CBD is a bigger pond.
Yeah, which is a great venue. I want to talk about that.
Yeah. So we ran that for about 5 years, 95 to 2000.
Right.
But prior to 2000, state government was looking for was running a tender for the former casino site at Piedmont. And I responded to the ad. There was no Google or emails. There probably were emails, but we had no email.
Slow, yeah.
So I actually delivered a tender pack to the state government back then. It was the Sydney Harbour Foreshore Authority. And and I won the tender. I won this tender in October '99. That was probably the biggest step we took as a family to take our brand to the city, which was Piedmont, as it is today, back then was a very working harbour.
Right.
The casino was built, and there was a lot of industrial wasteland. Prior to that was the old casino. The first senior, it was a temporary casino site.
Yeah, right.
If you would have been aware, the state government back then had a temporary facility while they were building a new facility. So that temporary facility was there from about 96 to 2000. It was only there for 4 years. So while they were building the new casino, I think it was 4 years it ran it was called the Sydney Harbour Casino, which then became Star City. The Olympic site is, I think, the next slide. Yeah, that was the site where we actually won the tender for the Darling Island, the old casino, which is a good time because it was during the Olympics. So in 2000, when we opened up the venue, we were unaware of corporate demand. So we had no business plan. We walked in there, we took a lease, and we thought, okay, well, if we can do a few big weddings, and then it was about probably March of 2000, we get approached by the Minister for Sports, I forget who he was, and he said to us, we want you to host all the Olympic functions during the Olympics. And we said, oh, great, no problem. So what we didn't realise was like 5,000 people a day.
That's right.
So it was a big venue. We went from 10 employees to about 100.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And we did it well. We did it. I must admit, everyone got in there and we all worked hard, and we ran a very successful Olympic campaign. And that's when we started to tap into the corporate market. All the Olympic sponsors were our clients, and because it was only a short-term lease, the site was sold to Multiplex in 2001, and they basically, Multiplex, big bullish company, they told us, look guys, get out, we're here now. And we said, well no, we have a lease and we want to see it through. And they said, well, we've got to build units here, and units are getting like $1-2 million a unit. So we sat down. I remember this meeting very well because I told Dad, we've got this big meeting next week, Multiplex, big developer. So we sat in this meeting, we went together, and there's like 14 people in this boardroom. And they said, look, we want to build a display suite to sell some units. And we said, oh, no, we've got the lease here, so no, you can't do anything. So my father's, still in negotiations. He said, you bought next door, the Jones Bay Wharf site. And they said, yes, we did. And my dad goes, okay, well, we'll do a deal. We'll buy that property and you can have this property. And we said, well, they go, you know, we paid $55 million for this property. And we said, that's great. That's good on you. They go, and you're blocking our development by having a function centre here. We said, well, we have a lease. The state government said to Maltese, well, you negotiate directly with the vendors, which they did, and that's how we bought Jones Bay Wharf, freehold. That was
had X amount of employees compared to with a small amount of employees. I mean,
yeah,
that's a huge learning curve.
I was very young back then, and when we took the lease, my father was, why are you renting this place for? I said, oh, it's big, it's on the harbour. And he goes, yeah, but I understand that it'll be a good thing, but you got to buy it. I said, Dad, you can't buy it. It's state government land. It's the old casino. You can't purchase these things. These things are, millions and millions of dollars, probably $200 million the whole. But we took the lease out. It was a bit of it wasn't a risk, but it was more like, well, let's have a go here. It was only a short-term lease. There was no risk for us. But what it turned out was that was the catalyst of us being where we are today. Yeah. So Jones Bay Wharf is located on Parama Road. It's a 110-year-old building. It was an old wool store, and then it also became an immigration processing wharf for immigrants coming into Australia. So it's a very, very unique property. It was decommissioned back in probably about 1995. It was decommissioned. I mean, it was handed back over to, I think Maritime handed back over to the government saying, look, it's been earmarked for redevelopment. Actually, in World War II, the troops actually left from that wharf to go to World War II. So there's a lot of the images. There's actually an interpretation centre on site that shows the history of the wharf, which goes back to 1919.
So your father immigrated on wharf number 12. Where is that?
Yeah, where the old casino was there was two immigration ports.
Right.
One was called Darling Island and one was called Jones Bay.
So from 2001 until it opened for 3 years, it was...
For 3 years, well, we finished at the old casino in 2002, which is good because we had multiplex to our building works. It was also part of the negotiation. But I can't comment because it was commercial in confidence.
Right, yeah. Confidential.
The whole $1. Okay.
This really starts to blossom for those 2 years, and then a couple years later, your dad and the family, because I just wanted to mention besides Biaggio, the entrepreneurial sort of person in the family, of course, was also your mom, Fina, who's here in the audience.
Yeah, your mum's here, she's there.
Nice to meet you. Please stand up.
She's the backbone of the family.
Okay, this is their mom.
Behind every great man is a great woman.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course
so
the rest
with me, there's my wife, Carmela. She's there.
Carmela,
she's my backbone. Right? And then my two sisters, Nina and Anna, which are over here.
Anna and Nina.
And my brother-in-law Steve. Yeah, so, and all the grandkids all here, all my kids. The thing is, my father was very consultative man. He was a very fair person. He would seek advice, and then he will then assess it, and then, educate us by listening, by, we have over 400 staff today, so that you don't get there because of luck, you get there because you have to work hard, but also you have to be a very, community person and communicate with your staff, just like any family will have to communicate, so, but, and that was a very good growth for us because it actually cemented our legacy in the city. Unlike the former casino site, it was only a temporary facility for us. It wasn't long term.
Right.
And I think I always think back saying it wasn't for that casino property, I don't think we'll be here talking about city venues. I mean, Doltone would have still existed, probably in different suburbs, but not in this unique harbour-side setting, which is growing. I mean, the landscape is changing every day. I mean, you look at Barangaroo, our backdrop is the harbour, so it's a working view. It's never still. It's always boats, and we get guests arriving from interstate or from overseas. They walk up and go, wow. And we're going, I'll come over here. They go, no, can we just enjoy the view? I said, oh, okay, this is a bridge, just a harbour. Come inside. What's that? That's the harbour bridge. That's just a bridge.
So it was all about property. And a couple of years later, I think it was 2006, your dad and the family invested in Blakehurst. Yeah?
No, this is a very funny story. My father was infatuated by this house. This house was owned by Jim Fleming's. It was a Fleming supermarket. And my dad used to deliver fruit there, as in the 70s, from Lakemba. And he always mentioned this big property at Blakehurst. And Jim Fleming was a very good friend of my father, because Jim Fleming had a supermarket at Lakemba. But he was like a Woolworths type of supermarket. So when in 2006, Jim Fleming decided to sell his property. And my dad, without consulting anybody, walked down, as an Italian did, with a pair of shorts and black socks and black sandals and his favourite Akubra hat. He loves a Akubra hat.
This is the photo, yeah.
And he beat 24 registered bidders. And then when the journalist asked him, what's your name and what'd you buy it for? He goes, oh, I bought it for my son. Christmas present. But he was like that. He was a lovable guy. I suppose we all have an ambition inside us. How you measure your success. He measured it by his family, you know. But that was for him a trophy, because he actually lived up the road. So when he built his house in '85, he actually built it in Blakehurst because he wanted to be next to this castle.
Oh,
The kid, that was his he just loved it. I mean, he just, you know, even to his last moments of breath, he goes, oh, I love that house. I love that house.
I mean, what a great tribute that you and your family are doing for your dad.
Yeah, of course.
And of course, your mom. And sadly, though, this is the 8-year anniversary of your dad's
Yeah,
death.
next Monday will be my dad's 8 years that he's passed away. But he fell sick just after, in 2007. He contracted asbestos cancer, going back to when he worked at Willoughby in the transformers, making transformers. So in those days, the factories were all asbestos buildings. They the transformers had asbestos wiring. So asbestos takes probably 30 to 40 years to develop into a cancer. So when he was diagnosed in August 2007, and that day was like, I remember taking him to the hospital or to the doctor's surgery, and he goes to me, your dad smoke? No, doesn't smoke, doesn't drink. He's got lung cancer. I said, okay. So I played it down to my dad. I didn't want to say too much to him, and I kept thinking, going, lung cancer. I mean, maybe in those days everyone smoked at a function room. You know, I was doing clean ashtrays as a young teenager. So you think, do you pick up lung cancer because people smoke, or you get smoking because as a secondary passive smoking?
Yeah.
So when we found out it was asbestos, it was like, wow, this is going to be bad. This is going to be a very bad ending. So the professor from RPA, Professor Boyer, told me, look, he goes, you might have about 6 months. So we had to quickly, I did what I could to, as a father, as a son does, I mean, use every contact. You know, I was ringing overseas and, you know, trying to get it. And they're telling us, look, I mean, we sent PET scans, but it was just one of those things which is, it was, you know, the battle that, you know, we couldn't win. You know, we had a lot of good battles, my father and I, taken on corporations, but, you know, the last battle, it was like, yeah, it really, I'm still disappointed. I thought I could have done more, but what do you do? I mean, you know, you can't, there's no magic wand. He died in May, obviously next Monday will be his anniversary. Yeah. Just about 2 months short from his 71st birthday.
Very young.
Mm. You know, he did tell me his last words. He told me to help other people with this disease. When he passed away, it was 1 a.m. on the 30th of May. I stood there by myself. I didn't want to call my parent, my mum or my sister. I thought, I had this burst of energy, like almost like an inner strength. So I said, okay, we'll organise a funeral, we'll organise everything. And I thought, oh, if he wants me to help other people, then I've got to either get in contact with other oncologists. But then I thought, well, let's do a foundation that can raise money for research, yeah. And that foundation was, I was very lucky that Morris Yama, the former Premier, is our chairman, and a great board. We hand-selected people that had all different parts of the industry, so a lawyer, Nick Papalo and Charlie, accountant Maurizio, who's on the board, and we had two celebrities, Jason Morrison, who's on TGB, and Glenn Wheeler, who's now suffering from a recent car accident, which is probably 40% brain damage. But both those gentlemen were very strong in the public arena, yeah. And we formed a foundation, and we've raised a lot of money just by holding events, and so the last event we had was about 1,300 people.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was just it just gets bigger and bigger, and we're lucky every year we have the premier. We've had 5 premiers and one every year, so it was great.
Yeah, so let me just show some of the key achievements that the foundation is actually doing.
Oh, that's Founders Day. That's next Monday, yeah.
Which is on the 30th. That's
30th. Every year, the 30th, we celebrate his anniversary by having a Founders Day where all the staff come in casual clothes, wear blue, and we have a barbecue, or each department, because we can't even get all the staff together. It's 400 of them. Oh, but so each department will host their own little event within the department. So sales, marketing, operations, kitchen will have their own little unit event. So they celebrate it, and every single property. So the 4 properties will have their own different.
I see. Right. Okay. So some key achievements. You want to talk about?
Well, the thing is, when we launched the foundation, I thought, well, obviously, being in the function industry, so we'll hold a function, we'll hold an event. And the first event we did was we reached capacity, and we just basically was lucky that we had the Premier of New South Wales, and I think that's where our Chairman Morris had a very good ear to the Premier by supporting this foundation. So we've had grants both from federal and state government. We've had all supporters, suppliers have all dug in deep and raised money. So we've committed to some great people that obviously focus in the research of asbestos. The recipient is the Asbestos Disease Institute in Concord. Professor Nico is the managing director there, and we work very closely in employing good people to do research. And every year we have different projects that we actually, Professor will let us know and say this is stage 3 of different research.
Right.
And our job is to partly fund, and we funded the guidelines, the Australian guidelines. We're co-funders there. We also funded different divisions of the surgical part, the Bed Institute at Camperdown. They're more into the operation of getting the cancers cut out. But
right.
So they're both the recipients. We even went to Melbourne in 2012. We did an event in Melbourne, and because I thought there's a big Italian community in Melbourne, so we advertised in the Il Globo, which is an Italian paper in Melbourne,
yeah.
And we've got about 700 people there to a dinner, and we kept the money in Melbourne. So we found an asbestos research centre at the Living Union Job Hospital in Melbourne.
Okay.
And we funded one of their programs, which is great.
Fantastic. So your dad said something to you at the end. He said, he really wanted you to help with. It's fantastic.
He was more worried about other people with the same disease than himself. So, that's the humble guy. Like he knows he was going to pass away, but his direction was, well, help other people. If you can't help me,
fantastic.
You got to make sure you help other people. So in that, and that's what we committed. The whole family, including the second generation, including. I'll make sure that foundation. Will it cure asbestos cancer? That's our objective. If we can save a life, it's a life.
Well, that's right. Well, and of course to stop anything like that happening in the future with building sites, etc.
Yeah.
These are just part of
just some checks and what we donate and just some.
So it said on the previous slide over 2 million. Yeah,
we've committed that. Yeah, so basically. we're not going to give up. You know, if it takes $5 million, we'll raise it. If it takes 10 million, we'll raise it. I mean, asbestos is not really a most popular cancer. I mean, you talk about prostate, you talk about breast cancer. There's big organisations out there, Cancer Council. This is I think we're the only asbestos foundation that we actually support. I mean, there are various organisations, but I think we're probably the biggest one that holds big events. I think it's awareness. I think what's important is the awareness. Yeah. Because people say lung cancer, but what type of lung cancer do you have? And I think asbestos now becoming, I mean, I think with the unions now, with the Bernie Banton story, asbestos is becoming a very popular, especially with this do-it-yourself home programs where you look at all the bins now that have no asbestos fibre on the bins. So they're trying to educate do-it-yourself home builders and also big construction companies that you just can't dispose of asbestos illegally. You got to be able to bury it, compact it, wrap it, because it's a little fibre. It's a little fibre that can be floating in the air and you can breathe it in. And I mean, the youngest person we've been talking to is an Italian lady called Serafina. She's only about 40, and she's a school teacher, and she got that by going back, and they're doing renovations at the school, and when she was attending the school, and she must have breathed in some asbestos fibres, and 25 years later she's got asbestos. I mean, they actually removed her lung, so...
And it's a very progressive cancer,
so some photos there of the event and what we raise and all the different... it's like I said, it's just growing and growing.
Fantastic.
It actually grew past Doltone House, so we couldn't host it. We had to build a marquee outside Doltone House to host the event. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, because the venue was getting too small. So
2009 is the...
Yeah, straight afterwards. I mean, when my father passed away, we were I was very paranoid that the critics will, really start to sort of say, oh, okay, the father's passed away, the matriarch, these guys are going to fall now, they're going to crash and burn. But, my father was good because he actually let go of the business. He made us run the business without, he was there as a guide. So in 2009, actually, it wasn't even a year after he passed away that we actually did this deal back at the old casino site. This was a move that, we said, let's just do it. And we did it. Not even 12 months later, we opened this venue. So for someone to lose the matriarch and lose the person behind, our supporter, to go into another property was a big step, and it was probably the best step we did because it just cemented our market share. So if you look at Piedmont, we pretty much got that covered.
That's the location.
And some locations there, yeah. And that's the wharf where my father arrived, Darling Island. The good thing about having a venue in the CBD or on the harbour is you attract the top AAA events. So anywhere from a sports person to a celebrity to actors. We've had Al Pacino, we've had Jerry Lewis, we've had all those...
So there's Jerry Lewis in the
yeah.
We have...
we do the arias, we do all the... it's all the different... I think the next slide shows... all the different artists. So it's we're very lucky that we have a good supporters of. I think the bottom right hand corner is Glenn Wheeler with us, me and Ben Fordham.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, I mean we're not against any political parties. I mean, I think we all have the same ambition. I think everyone wants Australia to be number one, and we're very lucky to live here. So.
And then I have to say next, because I'm going to jump ahead a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine, you can jump.
My favorite restaurant in Sydney is Signorelli Gastronomia,
yes, sir.
which I've been to so many times because I love your maitre d'. I forget his name, but he's...
Nico.
Yeah, a lovely guy. But this particular wharf where, Doltone House is,
yeah.
just explained, and where the restaurant is also Biaggio Cafe.
That's right, yeah, we've got a cafe there as well, and a restaurant. If you get back to the previous slide, there's
This one.
Yeah, because my father, we had a fruit shop in Lakemba, my dad loved the Bulldogs. So in 2009 we decided to sponsor the team that he loved. So by having the Doltone House on the sleeve of a first grade NRL team, and then every year we made sure that the sleeve carried his foundation. So just from that sponsorship, it really made the foundation aware to all the televised games, and it gives a really good catchment to all the major corporate organisations. And people like Todd Greenberg, who's the NRL boss, has become a good friend of ours because obviously being at the Bulldogs. Corey Payne, who's now the CEO of the Panthers. So I think the foundation benefited the most. Yeah. The brand Doltone House, it wasn't about us having advertisers, about a tribute to my father that he loved his local team, and it was what better way is have his name on a jersey. I think it's the only Italian name on an Australian NRL team.
Fantastic.
And I've got about 5 different variations of how they pronounce that name too.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Biaggio, Dicio. That was a football player. Yeah. And that's the cafe which we named after my father, and at the other one we called it Signorelli.
Okay, yeah. So I didn't realize that's where I actually met up with you the last couple of times.
Yeah, that's when we about 4 months ago. You told me about tonight, and I said, "Oh, sorry, I don't do public speaking." And then you rang me again, and I said, "Oh, I'll do it around May." And then I thought, "Yeah, I'll probably come out of it a month before." But then you already printed the invitation.
I felt that it was one of the most important nights we could possibly have because you and your family are just an absolute institution, and it's just 100% class everything that you guys do in your restaurant. And besides the fact that the restaurant is a fantastic venue, a great place for lunch or dinner, is that you actually do some really, really interesting things. Because I want to talk about some of these brochures in a minute.
I know we do a lot of part of our client entertainment is we do a lot of interactive classes, cooking classes. I think with the corporates today, you just can't take them for lunch and expect. I think when you interact with them and have cooking classes, or you have lunch or dinner, or even just breakfast, I think that's our corporate entertainment. That's where we do all our business. If we give a lunch away for 10 people, or we use these 2 entities to value add to other charities.
This is an important year as well because you and your family actually commissioned something.
Yeah, in 2010, some art gallery, I was invited to some dinner, and I saw a statue, and I thought, that'd be nice to put at Doltone House at Sylvania to have a bust of my father, like something in bronze. And so I did some research, and I found this sculpture called Terence Plowright. It was in Wentworth Falls. And nice guy, really, really good guy. And I went to visit him, and I said, look, I want to just get a statue of my father or something. I could put it home, I could put it at Doltone House of Sylvania. So we sat down and we had a chat, and then he goes to me, I think you should go for a full, real life-size sculpture. And I said, okay, well, it's okay. So we sort of started doing some drafting, some sketches. And he did a sketch, and he had my father with his hands in his pocket and holding something. I said, look, I don't think that looks right. So after more research, he said, how about he holds your son in the statue? That's a great idea, I said. So it'll be Biaggio and Biaggio. I thought, that's great. So we did some more sketches. Then I thought, Biaggio's got 2 other grandsons. So I thought, how about we just put Biaggio with the grandsons? And then he did that. And then I thought, no, how about the granddaughters? It'll be very, in 100 years' time, they'll tell me Uncle Paul is... So I said, Terence, put all the grandkids in there. And he goes, no, that's just too big. That's a major artwork. And I said, well, he goes, where will you put it? I said, no, I don't know, I'll find somewhere. And at that time, we actually did a function for immigration in Australia, at a celebration of migration. And Mari Bishi was a guest. And by talking about Piedmont, she said, there's a lot of immigrants arrived on this wharf. And then, the light bulb moment, I thought, perfect. But I must admit, that sculpture, not only does it attract photos every single day, people climb on it, kids climb on it. I mean, people say, where's you? I said, no, it's Biaggio, Fina, and the grandkids. I couldn't commission myself in a sculpture.
So you're not in this?
No. I mean, you don't want to sort of tell someone, I want to sculpture myself.
Myself,
Yeah. Maybe when I'm gone. I mean, it's just a big day. We had the Premier unveil the statue, and the Mayor. It was a big day. It was a huge day. And the Governor. She's just a fantastic lady. She's just. I think she's the success story of a migrant. You know, to become a governor, the daughter of a migrant family. And she said a lovely speech, and it was a great day, and they call it the Bronze Aussies now. That's what they call it, the journos, the Bronze Aussies.
They do. Okay, yeah.
That's what they refer to.
Refer to it, yeah.
The statue, yeah.
So the sculpture, Terence, is this the guy that actually does all the stuff at the zoo?
He did the.
Because I know who he is.
No, he done Sir Henry Parkes at.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done a few works. It was very hard to find someone good, and someone who had the passion.
Understand? Yeah. So I mean that.
It was his biggest commission that he did when he was building. I said, Terence, what if someone tries to steal one person? He goes, it weighs 10 ton. I said, I know, but you know, cranes and.
Well, so what was the length of time for you to work with him?
That was about 9 months.
9 months.
That was 9 months of work. Yeah. It was a private artwork, but for us it was more about life from a suitcase. Is a lot of immigrants say it today. You know, arrived here in Australia with a suitcase. I mean, a lot of migrants, whether Lebanese, Greek, Italian, Spanish, they all came with a luggage. Some luggage was even empty. You know, so. Yeah. And my father always reminded us of that. He said, I came here with a suitcase. That's all I had. And a promise, you know, a vision to be something in Australia. So
yeah, I mean, it's a perfect line. It's a perfect name.
Yeah, life from a suitcase has become very symbolic in that area.
And your father would be just so proud.
Yeah. And I think Terence got it. I think he got it right because, you know, it's just so accurate. The contours of my father's face, the glasses, the nose. You know, so I see my father every day when I go to Piedmont. He's there.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. In actual fact, Terence, without telling me, he kept the moulds. And about 2 years ago, he gave me a present of the similar statue, but it's not out of bronze. It's out of it's plaster.
Okay.
It was bronze would have been too expensive. And he turns up at my house one day and he goes, "Oh, I've got a present for you. Just, you know, there just can't be one statue in Piedmont." So he turns up with these on a truck and all these bodies at the back. I thought, Terence, I see feet, and he unfolds it and it's a statue. I thought, oh my God, you removed it.
You took it away. Well, it was the
same
size.
No, it's a replica.
It's the same size.
Same size. He kept the molds. He kept all the silicon molds.
Well, so where do you have it in your house?
I have it in my house, yeah. I thought a guard dog would be good. This statue keeps everyone away because they feel things someone's outside. So you drive past my place and you see 9 people looking at you going, what are you doing here?
Who needs an alarm system? Yeah?
It's funny because one of my neighbours, a lady that walks past every day, she actually stops and talks to the statue. So she But so Terence gave it to me and he goes, it'll probably last about 30 years. Because when I asked him about the statue, I said, Terence, how long will it last for? He goes, about 9 million years, bronze. I said, 9 million years?
I guess it will, yeah.
He goes, mate, 9 million years. Jeez. Even underwater, it won't erode because it's bronze. But the one I have in my house has got about 30-year life. But I have to do some work in about 25 years.
So great what you and the family did for Sydney, for Australia. It's just, you know, really great. Now, 2013, a big step happens. And this is an amazing event.
Yeah, and that site was, it sort of fell on our lap. We weren't looking, so we get a call one day saying, look, the Tattersalls Club is in financial trouble, they need support, they need this, and they're going to offload their property at Hyde Park. And we went there, I think Aaron and I and Nina walked in there, and we said, we'll take it. So that's now become a very, very big corporate anchor of corporate clients in that precinct. We thought we had all the corporates at Piedmont, but Hyde Park is just V8 supercharged. It just flies every day. Yeah, that's right. Which is good because the good thing about that site is that it's so elevated, so you see the park, so you think you're in the park. Well, it's opposite the park, but level 3, you're actually over the whole horizon.
Yeah, I mean, a friend of mine actually just went to a really exclusive birthday party there on Saturday night.
Okay, yeah.
And she just talked about it. And she was staying with us, and I said, "Oh, you won't believe this. I'm actually interviewing you." And I showed her the brochure. She said, "That's it. That's where I went." Amazing. Fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, it's very nice. It's very, very ballroom style, very plush. Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to do tonight is actually walk around with some audience questions, right? Because that could take a good 15, 20 minutes, I'm thinking. And except before that, can we just talk a bit about, well, we went through all this.
Yeah, we went with that, So.
Right, that's basically the portfolio.
Yeah. And the next one's, I think, it's got me, Nana, and Nina.
Yeah. And so now what's coming up?
We've got 2 more sites we're working on. One's at St. Susie, one's at Deepwater Park. So
where's that? Where's Deepwater?
Deepwater Park is in Milperra, in Western Sydney.
Okay. Yeah.
And St. Susie in the south.
Yeah. Fantastic. Wow. Okay, so you guys are continuing to move forward.
And that's myself and my 2 sisters.
Okay, so now on your left is Anna?
Anna and Lena. There's no boss. We all work together.
That's great.
And there's no leader. We have an understanding that the 3 of us, it has to be equal vote. It can't be 2-1, 1-2. So anything that happens, it's, it has to be all 3. All for one, one for all.
Well, that's exactly how your dad would have.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming tonight. I just want to ask you about the first function centre before you bought Doltone House.
That was known as Congadora Lounge in Ridgewood. It's a very, very popular Italian venue. And both my uncle and my father opened that in 73.
Okay. Was it just one of those, or was it more?
It was one venue. It was one venue back in the 70s, and then it grew to 2, and then to 3. So I did my apprenticeship there. I worked as a young waiter doing ashtrays and serving plates. So it was a very, and it still is a very iconic Italian venue.
When your dad left there and started Doltone House?
Yeah, we started probably about 12 months of it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Could you tell us something about your early years where you went to school in Sydney and things you did here before you became a young boy or an adult?
I went to school at St John's Lakemba as a DLSL school, and then I went to Benilde High at Bankstown. So in those days you went to school where you lived, so we lived in Punchbowl, and so basically I did my apprenticeship. I worked up with my father, so he was my teacher, and I was a young waiter working weekends and working the fruit shop during the week, and then that's what we did in those days. So
what an amazing story! Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. One question though, when you acquired the Tattersalls Club, which was known to be a men-only venue, I hope you changed the rules.
The Tattersalls Club is still on the level 2, so we bought level 3. So we're not part of the club. But I believe the club now is both male and female members are allowed. Yeah. So that was changed probably about a year ago. Yeah. There's a lot of clubs like that in the, whether it be a men's only, a lot of judges, and it was a place, cigar smoking, and there was no gaming. But today, clubs are very, very hard to sustain the current licensing, and you can tell about the new laws. But there's no more smoking. I remember when I was a young waiter. I mean, my job was to clean ashtrays, and there was like 5 ashtrays on per table, and I had a hard time keeping up changing the ashtrays. So look at the clubs today. So they have to change all their rules and regulations. So female, male, genders, it's all the, everyone's welcome. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, what impact has the Italian Australian community has had on your business, on the Doltone House business, and how important is that community to your continuing success?
When I started working with my father and my uncle, we only did Italian weddings. Italians married Italians. Today, multiculturalism's come in, so everyone is marrying different cultures, different religions. So there's no impact. The thing is now there's more market share because we're not just focused on one traditional clientele. In the early days in the 70s and there's a lot of Italian reception lounges that only attracted Italian clientele. There's very few left today that will just cater for one clientele. It's good to have our tradition when we do Italian weddings. It's knowing the culture, knowing the expectation. But today we do over 1,000 weddings a year, and it's probably 10% are Italian. Where both families are Italian. But venues range from, a wedding from 80 people to 500, and we cater for all that market. And I think different geographic locations helps us attract that market share.
My name's Charlie. Paul, do you still enjoy attending functions?
When you got 7 to 10 events on a day, it's very hard to get to all of them, but I usually look at the calendar and see where I need to be. And if I don't need to be there, then I got, we have great staff that represent our vision, our policy. So the answer is it's 7 days a week, Charlie.
What I'd like to know is those gorgeous little children down there, are they here?
Yeah, actually, what's very important for a family business is the next generation. I think it's very important that we actually talk and start the succession planning. The family council is something we work closely with our advisors to make sure that the generation continues. But look, I want to thank everyone coming tonight. I really appreciate you, and I want to thank COASIT for inviting me to talk about my family.
One last question, if I could.
Okay.
So, sort of in one sentence, what's a normal day in your life?
I like taking the kids to school. I love doing that. Yeah, that's my bond. So I take turns. My daughters or my son or my nephews. I take them to school. We have that chat. They like asking me questions. I ask them questions, and then it's back to work. Then we meetings and seeing clients and.
Thank you very, very much for coming, and a great round of applause for you and the family. So I just brought you a book on the food of Italy, region by region. Not that your chefs wouldn't know any of this, but we thought, it might be something that you actually enjoy. So that's on behalf of COASIT, Italian Family History. So thank you all for your patience, and if you all pull out your lucky ticket, hopefully you might be one of our winners this evening.
Okay, has everyone got their tickets ready?
And it's E43.
You can have wine.
And it's a lucky green E3, number 3.
You can have wine.
And it's green 44.
Some blue ones there.
We've got blue A97.
What would you like, wine or a book?
Blue ticket, and it's A60. A60. Okay, it's another blue ticket, and it's A29.
So what would you like? There's
It's
no choice.
purple E3.
It's Paul's rules.
You read tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Paul. Just before I head back to Art, I'd just like to announce very sadly that due to work commitments, Art is going to stand down as our chairman, which is, it's very sad actually. Anyway, but the committee would like to just take this moment to present you with a small gift of gratitude for everything that you've done for us. It's a very big news to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Well, look, I just wanted to end the night once again. Thank you to Paul Signorelli once again and family for the great story and your attendance tonight and your wonderful. Anyway, thank you very much for your attendance. I hope to see you soon. Thank you. Thank you.